Welcome to A Scrap Life, a podcast solely focused on the hustlers, grinders, operators, and business owners who live and breathe the scrap metal industry every day. We are the original recyclers. No suits required, just guts and hard work. Here is your host, Brett Eckhart.
What's going on, everybody? We are back. It's official. I usually try and jump on these calls early when I feel like I got a horse in the race that's got a little strength. But anyways, another Bulls versus Bears. I got the man Chad Ellerbrock with me, and we're gonna talk through this market. It's been pretty volatile, at least on the non-ferrous side. And the ferrous side is gaining, keeping, however you want to say it, momentum, at least from my point of view. Maybe Chad will talk us down, but we'll see. Anyways, just wanted to tell everybody thanks for listening. And Chad, what's going on, my man?
Brett, it's a pleasure to be here. So I got to ask you, you survived Vegas.
I did.
What is one or two takeaways around, thinking about the ferrous market? I mean, what did you really come away with? Do you feel like, the traditional got together and you felt more bullish, or got together and felt just okay?
I felt everybody felt confident about the April market. Now there was I've got a lot of people I've talked to that are, pretty deep rooted, that have been in the market, been in the business for a long time. And luckily for me, I've seen a couple of these, boom and bust cycles, but there's people that have seen, probably 3 or 4 more even than myself. And they, because they've seen, the pluses and minuses, they've seen the good times and the bad. They were, they're probably a little more cautiously optimistic. And then you've got the, generation that didn't go through the 08, big time scrap to, where you're begging people to take your shit scrap. So, where I got to see that live and living color. I know how this thing ends, and it usually isn't a bucket full of tears. But that being said, everybody, as near as I could tell, felt pretty strong about where the April trade was going to land. At least positive, that nobody had any firm numbers at that point in time, but people felt good about it. And they felt, that the longer this Russia-Ukraine deal drags on and puts pressure on the end state market is a good thing for scrap, maybe a bad thing humanitarily. Well,
it certainly felt like in March trade and with the world, the Dow Jones is up 7% since the March trade. On that fear versus greed index, we went from extreme fear to neutral. I feel like this month's chat shouldn't be bulls versus bears. It should be bulls versus neutral.
That's it. Maybe that's what we're going to call it on this one, bulls versus neutrals.
Well, that's good. So, it's always good to hear, but kind of a general takeaway whenever there's an ISRI, a big event, and shout out to ISRI. It sounds like they had one heck of an event. So that's awesome.
Yeah, I felt on the ISRI event, and this is just my personal takeaway, and I kind of mentioned it with Nick on Metal Monday, that the equipment show wasn't as good as I've seen in the past. And a lot of that, I think, is just because people don't have anything to sell. Like, shit's sold, they don't have it. Everything's got a name on the side, and sometimes they'll be like, hey, I remember going into these shows for years and being like, hey, if you buy it right now, when we go to ISRI, we'll put your name on the side and we'll give you a little free advertisement. I feel like that ship sailed so long ago that I was like, oh, okay, now it's like, yeah, we'll get you something in 2023 if you're a good customer of ours,
and you pay for it today, of course.
And of course, if you write a check today, and we're going to leave a price adjustment in there in case we can't get steel or whatever. So yeah, it's a whole different dynamic. It's super interesting on that front. But as far as the show, the attendees was good. You could tell a lot of people wanted to reconnect with people that they enjoy, have to spend some time with once or twice a year, and hadn't been able to do that. So that part of it I felt was strong. So whatever the equipment and maybe the trade show lacked, it kind of made up for on the attendee side.
I love it. Well, let's jump in the ferrous market. I mean, I think the important question in this market is how are flows, in your opinion?
Flows are like interesting, right? Regionally, it's, I think for us, it's very weather dependent still. So like, we're just kind of coming out of winter a little bit in some of our yards, where, pricing has been fairly strong. And now that if we can get that, once we get that weather to lift off a little bit and give us the opportunity to kind of, our customers to start getting motivated to move and do, I feel like April could be a decent flow month. March was okay. Luckily, we had, a lot of scrap internally that we had to process, but so we were able to, get some of that done. But the flows are, on a 1 to 10, 10 being 08, crazy, and 1 being terrible, probably like a 7, 6.5, 7.
You're doing a pretty good job. I ask you that question very consistently. It's always decent. Okay. I mean, for a bull, you're nailing that line. I love it.
Yeah. Strong sideways. And that's like the fucking scrap term of the century is like, how's the market looking? We're strong sideways.
Well, tell me, so it feels like we traded late, right? On the ferrous side, especially. Well, logistics wise, are you able to get out your tons that you subscribe to this month, know it with that smaller time?
Honestly, no. I sold, a jag of tons to Nucor in Utah, and I didn't get the PO until the afternoon of the 9th because it traded so late. They had a mill shut down. They had another issue, so it was like, even I had the trucking capacity to deliver it, which is a good thing, but I didn't get those tons delivered. All my West Coast tons I did. I was able to get the West Coast market is still strong, freight wise coming off. So that I was able to get those tons delivered, a lot of tons delivered, going west. But I think it's still, I'm lucky in the fact that I've got, my trucks at my disposal so I can really move my material. I feel like if you don't have your own trucks right now, and let's say you don't have rail or you have limited rail access, man, I think it's a tough spot, especially if you're trying to load scrap. There's not a lot of people that want to haul that shit right now.
Yeah. Well, I think that's pretty notorious when the trade happens late. It seems like order performance is always dismal, and hard to believe it's going to be any case different for March.
Well, you have to think, right? Like, so Friday is the 1st, and hopefully we'll get this podcast out by Friday is the goal, so people can kind of have something to chew on over the weekend. But ultimately, like, what does that put? The 4th is Monday, right? So if it doesn't trade till Tuesday or Wednesday, now you're like 5th, 6th again. So you're getting deeper into the month or somewhat. So the advantage is, and you being a mill buyer, you get it. Like in a market that's moving up, people that didn't get their March tons delivered, at least are going to keep shipping because they still have contracts to fill. So it's not like the flow is going to necessarily stop. Like if you're going into a down month where everybody just gets cut, and so either they're on a TBD or they refuse to ship until they know the number, and there can be that kind of like give or take a few days where it probably just slows.
To those few listeners that don't know anything about ferrous, tell them about how contracts work in the ferrous world. If the market goes, sideways or up, mills have the right to cancel the order at the end of the month.
Yeah, right? 100% the mills screw us scrap guys every day. The mills have an unfair advantage of if the market goes up, they keep the contract. If the market goes down, that contract gets canceled. And honestly, like, this is just my conspiracy theorist ass. Like, take it for what it is, Chad. It is what it is. But I believe that one of the reasons why the market traded so late in March, obviously you had the issues with Russia, Ukraine, people were trying to figure out tons, but I don't think anybody anticipated this strong of a market going into April.
No.
So they were willing to delay the trade, knowing that it was going to be hard to even commit to sell X amount of tons, thinking that maybe they're not going to take the delivery or they're not going to sell as much. And then April, they're going to be able to buy them, same or less price. Just
yeah. I mean, I felt like every day every day turkey was jumping up 25, 50. Oh, it's crazy. So it'll be interesting to see. I mean, and another driver to that, if you think about last month, was pig iron. So let's take a look at that chart.
Let's do it.
I mean, this is it's hard to figure out exactly what pig was when we were trading in March, but
yeah,
I think it was somewhere, I think we're up around 17%. Let's just say it's around the $800 mark, and now we're into 1,030, something like that. So,
just look at the chart. Even say like go from like the 17th of January or even February. Like you're looking at it, 550 to 1,000 and what? I mean, it's double.
Yeah,
close.
It's crazy. And then on another bullish chart, if you check out, sorry about that. Give me a second here. If you're looking, what I felt when I was going through this was pretty surprising was the hot roll chart. And let's take a look at that one here. There we go.
Like a move.
There we go. This one. So this one went from at the beginning trade. I think March trade was around 11.20. We went all the way up to 15.35. So that's another. That's up like 37%, $400 a ton. It's crazy.
Yeah. And then you look at that chart and you're saying, okay, is this just a blip? Or is this, how much inventory do you want to buy if you're buying new steel, or you're buying, steel, whether you're a manufacturer, or in my case, like where I'm buying, steel pipe and steel coil. So I'm sitting there looking at that going, I don't know, like that old, like, what do I do with my hands type of, I don't know how to pull the trigger or not, or wait.
And you can see the price, what that did to lead times. We're at around 3.5 weeks, 2.5 weeks, late February, early March. And when we jumped as high as 6.5 weeks, now we're right around that 5.5 week on hot roll. But I feel like that's a pretty strong point to me. I always look at this and think, man, if we get over 6 weeks, that's pretty bullish.
Yeah. And I think there's a lot to be said for that too, because then it comes back down to doing business. Like, at the end of the day, I think your customer, they have a set price point, whether it's selling scrap or selling new equipment. Like, selling scrap's a little bit different, I guess, but when you're selling new equipment or you're selling, new steel, I mean, that lead time becomes crucial, because now you start looking at projects, start looking at like what you can do with what, and your customer just wants a price. And you're like, well, shit, I don't know what the price is going to be, or if I can even get it. And we get back into that whole like COVID deal, right? Where it was like, it was just everybody's guessing,
Yeah. And you got to think, I mean, at least in Turkey. So let's bring up that chart. I mean, Turkey, it felt like last month they would go out and sell rebar, right?
Mm-hmm.
At some crazy number, and then they'd go back and buy the scrap. So you got to think at some level, I wonder if steel mills in the U.S. do that too, where they secure the sale and then they go back and source raw material,
Yeah, against that sale price, which is why you're seeing, they're having to jump that price, even if they didn't capture all of it in this sale. It goes back to replacement cost, right? And moving forward, what does that number look like?
And I think this chart, I mean, you can see the huge run up, and that's what the March market ended up doing. I mean, talk about what a different market from when we talked and we did this podcast last month. So like 3 days later, it was like night and day.
We did it. You said it the best. It was like the podcast. Whatever we said, it didn't mean shit. It was like, wow. I mean, I was like, about the most worthless commentary in today's world. Is like, if we would have been able to predict that, we might be pretty smart dudes.
Yeah, most irrelevant podcast ever made.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. Man, how the things had changed for sure.
Yeah.
And one thing I know about this business, and it well, is if it goes up that fast, it goes down just as fast or faster. So you got to be fairly on your toes right now. If I was to give anybody any advice, it would be don't fuck around and try and time it and expect that if it went up that much from February to March, it's going to be the same thing. Like I've seen it both ways. Like it can go down just as fast or faster.
Yeah. What's the old expression? Market takes stair steps up and elevators down.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. There's no more truth than that in this business.
Yeah. And so I think we've seen that. I mean, I think, and whether it's oil, we can talk about nickel, we can show that chart. I mean, that was just, I'll bring that one up. That was just a wild ride. I mean,
yes, it's still, that ride isn't over, here's my question for you, and you're a smart guy, and I only try and talk to smart guys so I look smarter. So that's why we're having this podcast. But so if tomorrow, right, essentially basically they're saying that Russia's only going to accept payment for commodities in the ruble, right? Like if that, I think they really do that. That really happens. Like I think Putin's pretty much putting everybody on blast, saying, how much do you need our shit, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's going to be a big telltale sign. And nickel is a big component of that. So like when I look at this nickel chart and nobody really knows, how this thing is going to go. But, I don't forget the percentage of nickel that comes out of Russia, but you probably have it in your notes somewhere. I can see you looking for it. What is it?
No, I don't know that, but I mean,
it's 50. Like I know, like I really pay more attention to palladium and rhodium, so like that, just because I'm not a huge nickel trader, but I know that it's a jag, and from a percentage, it's a big percentage. So I'm interested to see how this thing really shakes down, because I feel like this roller coaster is probably just getting started.
Yeah. I mean, I got to point out, that's a great principle, great scrapism, we'll call it, is, you never know. You're always paying too much for scrap unless you miss it. Right. And so I feel like that's kind of Putin right now, right? It's like, how much do you need me? We're going to find out right now,
100%. And I feel like I was reading an article the other day, and they're talking about how come when Russia and invaded Ukraine, and how come the palladium price popped just like everything else, and nickel, everything, right? And then while everything else kind of stayed high, palladium came down. And because obviously, from a politics standpoint, I could really give two shits. I probably should care more than I care, but I don't, because I'm just going to trade and do whatever I do, regardless of whether it's Trump or Biden. It doesn't matter to me. I was reading, because Biden is so hooked into the automotive market, the unions and whatever else. Palladium is 42% of it comes out of Russia, and they didn't want to disrupt the automotive market any more than it already was from the semiconductor, or the chip manufacturers and everything else. But they're like, we really can't effectively go in and place a sanction on fucking palladium at the same time they can't get chips and just whack this market, right? So I'm curious. The next ball to drop for me is going to be, are they really going to force people's hands and make them go buy the ruble to pay for commodities? And that's going to be interesting on the ferrous side up for pig iron, right? Like, I feel like that's a big driver, getting back to, the bulls versus bears on the ferrous side. Like, that's going to be an important thing that people should keep an eye on, in my opinion, is how that deal plays out.
Yeah, and I kind of feel like you got almost two markets in the ferrous world. You got prime scrap, pig iron, really related, and then you got cut grades, right? Mm-hmm. And to me, I guess I was surprised of how disciplined, how flat the Turkey scrap market has been. I was, if you would have told me on March 11th, March 9th, that we'd be sideways from that trade, at that 640, 660 level, whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
If we would be flat, on March 30th, I would have said, you're crazy. You're wrong. There's no way.
Yeah.
People lost their minds. And so I you could say, well, Turkey can buy Russia's scrap, they can buy pig iron, they can do all these different things. Who knows? But I know is if you look at this chart, this is the Turkey rebar-scrap spread. Right now, their margins are around 260, we'll call it. If you look at this chart, I mean, what's kind of their average the last year? Is it 225? So
yeah,
it's close. So on the cut grade side, it feels like, if we're in the US and Turkey's going to go crazy again, I mean, this data wouldn't support that.
Yeah, and I mean that's probably one of the main bearish points I would see is, and I'm not here to help you make your case because I'm trying to go the other way, but I'm trying to drive neutral. But I mean, the European market, that's not that economy isn't just guns blazing on fire. If anything, they're struggling, and if anything, they're probably sitting there trying to figure out how they're going to get food. I feel like there's a bigger fish to fry over there than over here in the U.S. and talking about scrap and what export. I mean, we could be 3 days, 4 days from now, and it could do the same thing it did in March to us. But I feel like that's probably the only point that's keeping cut grades or keep anything like manageable, or else this thing should be a rocket ship. I mean, it primes up 150 to 175 is what I'm hearing, like pretty easily. Cut grades, it's got a lot. I mean, cut grades, you can melt a lot of cut grade, if it primes up 175. You can put a lot of fucking iron in there.
Well, there's two charts. I think that we got to talk about that. I mean, if you look at this Bushling chart, right? Is that what you're seeing? Yeah. So, I mean, look at this. I mean, you look at this, you think, oh man, it's just getting started. Yeah. Very similar, eerie similar there, 2008. And if you look at, let's look at heavy melt. I mean, heavy melt, right now we're surpassing 2008 levels. And you can see what happened after that. So it's crazy, absolutely crazy. And when you're talking about on the yield, I think that's worth mentioning too. In fact, that unfortunately might help your case more than mine. But check this out.
This thing's becoming too friendly. We need to be bigger jerks. Be like, no, you're wrong. You go pound sand. And we're not friends anymore.
Maybe we gotta do like how on Snapchat you can put those faces on. You put a
exactly.
But no, check out this out. So if you look at now, these are just A&M Chicago, industrial melting. So there's no real scientific data. Every melt shop's different. But if pig iron's around $1,000, right, $1,040 on that adjusted cost, I mean, you're talking a $300 delta between bushling last month. If it goes up, I mean, I don't know.
I guess what you're saying in a roundabout way, essentially what you're saying is the pig iron price supports a strong bushling move, a strong cut grade move.
I want to go there in cut grades because I feel like cut grades is really indicated by Turkey, right? In Turkey we've seen flat. So who knows? I mean, we're in odd times. Who knows what can happen? But the chart data says, hey, bushling could go bananas. And with cut grades, unless something really starts happening on the export, which obviously last month it went crazy. So who knows what happens today, tomorrow, or 3 days from now. But that's right now. It seems like the turkey buyers have been pretty disciplined since the losing their mind early March.
One thing I will say, one thing I have that I did find interesting. I was talking to somebody at ISRI and who buys a fair amount of steel and has some good contacts, some European contacts and whatnot over there on that side of the world. They were talking about, these from an export purchase standpoint, they were saying these guys are erring on the side of buying extra, even if they felt like they had to put it on the ground and even the price, they felt like it was going to go down. So they called it pretty early saying, hey, this April could be a big month only because they're going to err on the side of buying too much.
Okay.
Because they didn't know, what is an extended, protracted, Russia-Ukraine deal look like? And then if other people get involved, NATO gets involved, all this, they kind of went into a little more deeper than what my forte is, but they were just saying, be careful as far as, not careful, it wasn't the word, but essentially, open your eyes and see that there's going to be some opportunity for some strong pricing, and mostly just from a restocking or from an overstocking standpoint. Yeah. And I found that interesting, to say the least. I was like, oh, okay, I guess that makes sense. I mean, so, and to your point, back to your rebar in Turkey, your Turkey rebar chart, at 250, right? Wasn't that the, at I mean, if they're making $250 a ton on rebar in Turkey, they still have really good margin in that material, right? I mean, especially even historically speaking, I don't know how far you can run that chart back, but
yeah. Well, you can see it on the bottom here. I mean, was 180 the last historic? I mean, I don't know, just trying, but we've had inflation. I mean, look, the U.S. printed 40% more money. I mean,
you keep fiddling that, singing that fiddle or playing that fiddle or whatever. But I'll tell you, like at 250, like 260, that's pretty good margin. They've got a lot of room to push up HMS pricing and still make really good money. Because I don't know, like I said, I'd be interested to see what that historical average is, going back, to 2008 or 2000 and whatever. I bet it's around that 100.5 to 180 number.
Yeah. All I got to ask you to put the bear side on that is how much you made per ton. Your margin per ton is a lot different this year than it was 2 years ago. And some of that is because the actual market, but some of it's because you've had to raise your costs because your labor's got more expensive, your machines got more expensive.
Ours has, for sure. Yeah. But how about Turkey?
I would think
have they felt the inflation that the U.S. is feeling?
It's hard to believe that they didn't experience some kind of inflation.
Some kind of inflation, right? And then I don't pretend to know like their geopolitical, what they're feeling as far as like, if the the farming, the fertilizer, the fuel and all that, if they're feeling that, the food inflation and the other inflation that we feel here in the US, if they're necessarily feeling that over there. But I still feel like on our end, they've still got some margin to give, and we have to make more margin now on the scrap side just to keep the lights on.
Got to keep those lights on.
Yeah, man. I mean, someone's got to pay the electric bill around here.
All right, so let's switch gears. I've been seeing a lot of cool stuff about your NFT. Lay us on what you're doing with that. What's going on?
So we are, dude. I'm so stoked you asked that question, because I mean, I see you as being, potentially like a big part of it, and big part of it being just being like a contributor to the network, right? Ultimately, like what we're doing, and I think ISRI. The best part about ISRI is this: when you go to ISRI, it's the connection, it's finding good consumers, good producers, the guys, the equipment, whatever else. But it's finding people in the industry that you can trust, that they can give you their 2 cents on their market, whatever they got going on, or what equipment they like to buy, what equipment they like to operate, where they've had success on certain items or whatever else, right? It's networking. So the best NFT projects are going to be moving forward whoever can build the best network. And when you think about like the Bored Ape project or CryptoPunks, it's people that are very well financed, they've got deep pockets, that can go spend $500,000 to $1 million and own one of these NFTs, and basically puts you as in their network, right? Now they give you a private Discord login, and you can now communicate with the Kanye Wests and the shout out to my buddy Adam Weissman's of the world, right? Like you can be in that network, right? Well, I am in the process with like our team over here creating basically a network just for the people you would see at an ISRI event that maybe can't make it to an ISRI event, or people that understand the industry and that want to discuss how do we as individuals strengthen our businesses or develop our contacts so that we can help each other out. And whether that's help each other out, give each other information as far as, what equipment we like, or, what's a good fix for, say, my LeBounty shear that's got a big gap between the blades. Like, hey, you over there in, Mississippi or whatever, like you got a couple of bounties, like, have you ever seen a fix for this or whatever, right? So it's building up your networking ability and building up a group of people that understand how important the livelihood of the recycling industry is, and helping each other promote each other's businesses. So I've always been a big, strong believer in your business, your net worth is your network, right? Like, absolutely. I've always said that, like that is your net worth, is, who can you rely on? Who can you call if you got a problem? Who can you call if you have a question, you need an answer? So that is what we're building. I mean, the art is cool. It is what it is. It's not an art project. It's a networking project. And, we're selling it as that, as our ability to create our own network and help promote not only the industry, but help promote each other. And I want to see other people be successful. I've been a big believer in there's no secrets anymore in the scrap business. Like, it used to be like, hey, who do you sell to? How do you do this? And nobody really wants to give you that information. Nobody wants to give you a yard tour and just let you see what they do, right? I'd say, fuck it. Like, if you can beat me at what I do and you're better than me, then you deserve to win. Like, if you can come into Idaho and beat me at my own game, then you deserve it. You're better than me, right? I'm going to give you a run for your money, but you deserve to win. And I feel like if everybody had that mentality and was like, hey, I'm really good at what I do, I want to help other people be really good at what they do. And whether you're in Mississippi or in Iowa or in Kansas or in Alabama, like, I want you to learn from me and I want to learn from you and I want to help all of us be successful. So that's what we're building, man. That's the project. And dude, we're so excited about it, because I just feel like there's so many avenues that we can branch off into. Like, I mean, whether it's, selling, like gear that represents our, our network, or whether it's just like, hey man, I got 10 people I can call about where's a good home for 6061 aluminum. Like, what are you guys doing? How are you packaging? Like, I want us to be able to network and be able to make that phone call and have a certain level of comfort in doing it, and a certain level of privacy, right? That you're not just putting it out on the internet for anybody to see. You're like, hey, I know there's people in this network that I can reach out to right now. I probably get a pretty straight up answer, So that's what we're doing, man. We're stoked about it. I mean, I think I can get you. I'll get you in.
It's got to be like the really rusty, like bear, something. I'm on the bear side, on the buyer side, so it's got to be, something like the lousiest element. What do you think that one is?
Iron. This shit that it takes 80 damn trucks to move 1,200 tons, like the most pain in the ass, but the stuff that like is in all of our veins that we're like, all right, we're in it. It is what it is.
I love it. Well, what a blast this is. I really enjoy getting together every month. This is so much
Likewise,
fun.
Man. I appreciate you carving out the time. It was kind of a last minute deal today, but man, I enjoy like the shit out of these conversations. It's, you bring up good points, stuff that that my little pea brain doesn't really kick out. And I'm like, all right, perfect. Like, let's talk about this and get each other's point of view. And hopefully, like I said, it's deals like this, right? That hopefully help somebody, right? If we help one person get a little bit more knowledge, then that's a win in my book. Like, I feel like that's a win, right? We educated somebody about something. And the other cool thing about our NFT project that we're going to do is we're going to help people set up podcasts. So we've already kind of done all the research, and we've done a lot of the, equipment, how to basically produce it, how to get it out there, whether it's through Apple Podcasts or, Spotify. So we've kind of done all the legwork, hopefully made a lot of the mistakes for everybody. So our goal is to basically produce 50 podcasts, one for every state. And then we've got 47 countries. So we'd like to get, basically 97 people doing podcasts about the recycling industry in their state, in their area, and basically talking about their region, what's going on, what they're hearing, like what information they can provide. And then we're basically just going to build like a big portal to basically funnel all those podcasts through one channel so that you can get recycled Alabama, recycled Texas, recycled wherever, and then just kind of go through in your area. And you might feel like there's a good national one you want to listen to, like say a national radio station. But if you really want to dive in locally and see what your local operator is doing, then we want to basically help somebody in that state produce that podcast and push it out to their, people in their region.
I love it. That's gonna be awesome. I can't wait to be a part of that journey and watch that journey. It's gonna be
fun, man. And you know what? Like, I got fucking 30 years to do it. So like, I would love to be able to do it in about one, but I got a little bit of time ahead of me.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, the world's certainly going to change. And I think, like you said, from the different NFT projects that have already been crazy successful. I think last time I checked, VeeFriends was the most popular one.
Yes,
which was like a month ago, and he sold the first round is of NFTs. Gary Vaynerchuk sold $51 million worth of NFTs. So there's a lot of probably people listening like, what in the world is an NFT and why is it valuable?
Yeah,
well, it's sold $51 million worth in a day. So that's pretty cool. And then the second part is he gets a 10% residual every time those transfer. And so this is after they've been out for 6 months. He made another 40 million just
on the residual.
Yeah.
And so for us, like one of the reasons why Gary V's, because I pay a lot of attention to that guy. I think he's got a lot of good business knowledge in general. But like one of the reasons why he was so successful is he's developed a really good community, right? Yep. He's developed a lot of people that believe, as far as they believe in what he's saying, and it's made business sense for them. And I have a similar feeling in how we create this. It's not necessarily about the artwork. And if you look at Gary V's, it's hand-drawn fucking ducks and it's nothing special, right? I mean, there's no out of this world artwork. But what he's done is he's been able to network people together that, to help each other and encourage each other, right? Whatever business they're in. And so, we're not going to generate some crazy amount of money. But what we are going to generate is a bunch of networking opportunities so that down the road, like you can help promote your business, right? And help promote your networking, whether it's promote your own business or promote the business you're working at. And I think that's where he's won, is he's went at it with the approach of, my goal is to build a badass network. And my goal is to not, do some cash grab where, you're just raking a bunch of money off the table and saying, hey guys, thanks for coming out. He'll win in the long run because he's thinking about it long term and not necessarily, just some cash, like celebrity cash grab. And I think that's our goal. And one more thing, while you got me on this topic, because I'm super passionate about it. So we built it into our project. If you've never checked out Micro Works, anybody who doesn't know, Micro is the dirty jobs guy. So if you've never checked out Micro Works, he's got a foundation where basically he gives scholarships to people that are doing trade association type jobs, right? So he goes in and if you've got an interest in being an electrician or a plumber or a, steel fabrication welder, like whatever that is. So we basically put a portion of the proceeds of our NFT project to go to Micro Works so that we can basically give back to the industries that are basically feeding us every day. So it's the manufacturers, it's the welders, it's the electricians, the guys that are like actually generating scrap and are feeding our businesses. Like we want to basically help promote what he's doing, and he's got the mechanism already set up to basically give the money out and give it to the right people. So we're like, fuck it. Like this is a good charity for us to donate to on the backs of, us building out a network of people that are like-minded like us.
I love it. Well, he was actually at, I think 2018 ISRI in New Orleans. He had a great chat just about that. I think that's awesome.
And he's a good dude. I mean, he means well, man. Like he understands the backbone of America is not, a guy sitting there trading crypto all day in his basement, right? The backbone of America is people that we deal with every day in our industry, whether you're in the mining industry or the scrap industry. I mean, it's truck drivers, equipment operators, pipe fitters, like the real, the shit that people, once those jobs used to get shit on, and people are starting to realize how crucial those industries are to what we do, like it's so that part of it's exciting for us. There's always got to be a give back component, or else why are we doing this?
Right. Absolutely.
All right, man. I don't want to chew up too much of your time. Go see your family. I got soccer practice here.
Well, thank you again for your time today. I really appreciate it.
Likewise, man. Take care, and we'll talk soon.
All right, sounds great.
All right, buddy. See ya.
See ya.